If there was one thing that Dark Souls 3 did to the overall lore of the series, it was a layer of confusion that was added to the original Ornstein and Smough boss fight from Dark Souls 1. Item descriptions in Dark Souls 3 tells us that only Smough remained as the last knight in the cathedral while Ornstein left, so that just begs the question, who the hell were we fighting in Dark Souls 1? Many people speculate that it was just an illusion, others think it was a retcon to the story, but maybe it was the real Ornstein but just summoned in his phantom form. And after playing the Ring City, I think there are definitely some points to support this. Now, I will admit this is a very bold theory, but I will provide some evidence that I found on my travels that will support why I think Ornstein was a spear of the church. When I first arrived in the Ring City and stopped to take in the view, it didn't take me long to notice that there was a specific building that had completely different architecture than the rest of the buildings you will find within the Ring City. This of course turns out to be the Church of Filianor, and it shares the same architecture that you would find in Anor Londo or Irithyll. Considering that Filianor is a daughter of Gwyn, it makes sense that the architecture mimics that of what you would find in the City of Gods. The interior of the church where you fight the Spear of the Church boss fight is the exact same boss arena as Ornstein and Smough, only slightly smaller in scale. From the pillars themselves right down to the design pattern on the windows within the arena. Just like in Dark Souls 1, there are two exits at the rear of the boss arena where you ascend to meet another Princess of Gwyn in her bedchamber. There is no doubt in my mind that the Church of Filianor is a definite callback to the Grand Cathedral in Dark Souls 1. The interior design mimics it almost perfectly, just on a slightly smaller scale, but how does this all connect to Ornstein? So first of all, the Spears of the Church were sworn to uphold the King's decree and stop anyone who would try to wake up Princess Filianor. Those who fulfilled their duty as a Spear of the Church were rewarded with Filianor's spear ornament. This was a ribbon or a piece of cloth that Knights of the Church would wrap around their spears as a sign of pride, which you can see on the spears next to the Divine Monument just outside of the church. The church itself is lined with ringed knights that are holding spears, and closer inspection of the ringed knight spear shows that it is wrapped in what appears to be a blood-stained spear ornament ribbon. So I would assume that the ringed knights also served as spears of the church, reinforced by the fact that a ringed knight is protecting the Divine Monument. Interestingly enough, Ornstein's weapon of choice is a spear, which has a blood-stained ribbon wrapped around it. When you think about Ornstein, he is Gwyn's most favoured knight. His weapon of choice is a spear. It would make sense for Gwyn to entrust Ornstein with the most important of tasks. Perhaps Ornstein was even the first ever Spear of the Church. Maybe he was tasked with protecting both Filianor and Guinevere. Perhaps the Ornstein we see in Dark Souls 1 is a summoned version, his phantom. His duty was to uphold the King's decree and stop anybody from disturbing Guinevere. Again, this is just a theory and I feel like I made some decent points to support it, and I'm just curious as to what other people think, so let me know what your opinions are. But even if this is real or not real, just remember that Ornstein was definitely playing on the developer's mind before they released this DLC.